what it was. You're tuned in with priceless knowledge of self. And this right here, this ain't nothing but some cosmic insight. But what this also is another dive into the divine mathematics. And I know y'all are used to us smoking and vibing to the beat and all of that. And I love that shit too. But this is the numbers game. So it's best we just stick to the facts. And what I mean by the numbers game this time is this right here. This is a little something about those people that have the number 1 as their life path in numerology. Now, before I can actually get into that, what I'm going to do first is tell y'all a little bit about what numerology actually is. And then I'll speak for a few minutes about what the life path is all about. And then I'm actually going to teach you how to calculate your life path myself. But then comes a culmination, a crescendo, and eventually a climax. And one thing you're going to learn about me is I'm actually one of the coldest closers in the game. So, without further ado, let's get into you. And if you were to ask me what numerology is, the most simple answer that I can give is this is the study of numbers and the energetic influence that they have on our lives. Because ever since ancient times, the sacred mathematics have alerted us to the energetic vibrations of numbers in the amazing ways that they impact us at a cosmic level. And when I say cosmic level, I say that with good reasoning. Because each number's unique vibration is going to affect us in a different way. So in essence, numerology could actually be used to assess the energetic signature of anything. Hell, of everything. Even your soul. Especially your soul. And if you know anything about me and what we got going on around him, we want to know what that soul do. And no matter how you look at it, numerology is going to play a pivotal part in that algorithm of your existence. And that's going to boil down to those 5 core numbers, as well as a few other calculations that can show you some of the gifts that we have naturally, some of the challenges that we might see, plus what to expect in certain periods of our life. And then you have the lucky number, the signature number, and the balance number, and all of those can give us certain advantages if we utilize them appropriately. And when we're talking about those 5 core numbers, that means the life path number, the life destiny or the expression number, the soul urge or heart's desire number, the personality number, and the birthday number. But the maturity number is also important. But we ain't got to that yet. And we will in time. Best believe. Alright? And numerology is always going to be about those 9 single digits numbers that range from 1 to 9. And then those 3 master numbers that are going to be the master number 11, the master number 22, and the master number 33. And each one of those is called a master number because not only do they carry the fundamental energy of the number that they would reduce to, but they also carry a double divine dose of the 1, the 2, or the 3. And so the master number 11 is also a 2. The master number 22 is also a 4. And the master number 33 is also a 6. All right. Now, let's take it a little deeper and talk about what the life path actually is. And look, like the sun sign in astrology, the life path number is how you're going to be labeled in numerology. But what it really represents is the path that you should take through life and the talents and skills that you should utilize in order to make this journey a rewarding one. So fundamentally, the most telling number in your numerological profile is going to be that life path number. Because not only is it an indicator of our strengths and our weaknesses and how we act and react and what's important to us and how we process life, but more importantly, it tells the tale of the journey that we're on to become the person that we're really supposed to be in this life. And so that also means each individual life path is going to bring some uniquely positive and negative traits along with it. But it's up to our own free will how we allow that to manifest in our lives. And best believe, we're going to get ample opportunities to get the most out of our life path. So it's our own choice whether we live the higher or lower vibrations of that number. And actually, to be honest with you, we're all going to live both the higher and lower vibrations of that number at some point in our lives. So that just means it's of the utmost importance that we end up at the higher end of that vibrational spectrum before it's all said and done. Because if we don't, we can end up incurring a karmic debt. And that just makes things all the more difficult for us next time around. And by next time around, I am referring to our next lifetime. So that means as we get into numerology, we will be getting into reincarnation, but not in this particular context with the life path number, because this speaks specifically and explicitly to the path that we're on in this current life. Now, that may or may not be influenced from a karmic debt from a previous lifetime, but we ain't talking about karmic debts. And not everybody has karmic debts. I do, but most people don't. Now, most people do have karmic lesson numbers, but we're not talking about those yet either. All right? And I promise you we will at a later date. I promise you. All right? But what I want to do now is teach you the proper way to calculate your life path number. And then I'll pricelessly tell you what it means to have the number 1 as your life path number. All right? Because for some people, if they're calculating it incorrectly, it's going to give them a master number when they don't really have a master number. All right? And so we're going to use my mother's birthday for this because she was a 1. And her birthday is March 16th, 1962. And so you don't add across, all right? Because that could end up giving somebody a master number when they don't have one. And so what you're going to do is simplify. So you take the 3. There's no way to simplify that 3 any further, so you drop it down. And then you take the date, the 16th. You add the 1 to the 6, that equals 7. You drop that down. But you take note of that 16 because that implicates a karmic debt. And anytime a 13, a 14, a 16, or a 19 shows up in anybody's numbers, that's going to be indicative of a karmic debt. All right. So you have a 7 there. And then you have 1962. Well, 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 6 is 16, plus 2 is 18. So you have 1 plus 8 equals 9. All right. And so you have 3 plus 7 plus 9. That equals 19. Well, 1 plus 9 is 10. You can simplify that further because you can add 1 plus 0. That brings 1. But we also see that 19 here. And so this is a 1 life path, but it carries both the karmic debt 16 and a karmic debt 19 along with it. All right. And those are both very prominent in my mother's lives. And once again, you can't just add across. You need to do it just like this. All right. So now let's talk about what it means to have the number 1 as the life path. And since this is the number 1, there's going to be some times where I speak to y'all directly. All right. And so before we can actually get into what it means to have the number 1 as your life path, let's first just try to get a quick understanding of what the number 1 actually represents in numerology. All right. And so first of all, the number 1 is the number of self. And in Vedic numerology, it's ruled by the sun. And that's actually fitting for this because in my professional determination, I would say the 1 is a mix of Aries and Leo energy. And what's interesting with that is the sun is at home in Leo and is exalted in Aries. So the 1 is about expression and courage and leadership and initiative and intuition and drive and will and action and actualization and awareness. Oh man. So when you apply that to somebody's life path, that means the number 1 life path is going to be about learning how to believe in yourself and satisfy your soul's need for independence. And then if you're a 19/1 like my mother was, it's going to be about learning how to stand on your own 2 feet and take life's licks on your own chin and to be courageous. But we're not talking about karmic debts yet. All right. And that's when we're talking about that 19-1, that's the karmic debt that influences that right there. All right. And we'll get into that another time. But looking at the 1 overall, This is going to be about the process of awareness that leads to acknowledgement, that leads to accountability, that leads towards actions, towards self-actualization. All right. See, that's the process of self-development that life path is going to be centered around. And this is going to be about using your courage and your charisma and your intuition and your unique God-given talents to manifest whatever the fuck you want for you in your life. And I say that specifically for a reason. Because the question I want to ask you is, as a life path 1, and if it's about you and your independence, why do you so often feel and act as if your success and your happiness depend on other people and their validation? That's a serious question you're going to have to ask yourself over and over in your lifetime if you're a 1. But to break it down even further, all right, in a way, the 1 represents progress. And that implies that you just need to take one step at a time towards your highest potential. And all you really need on the way to that is you. You have everything you need with yourself and of yourself. All right. And you just have to believe in yourself. And so you just have to make each step of this journey and each day of your life a goal in itself. And then you'll always feel accomplished and you'll always have the confidence to keep going. All right. And as you build confidence in yourself, that can lead you towards more large scale ambitions. All right. But you still can only go one step at a time. So just remember that 1. All right. And William Blake once wrote, "No bird soars too high if it soars with its own wings." And as a life path 1, you need to remember that. All right. But as you're on this journey of self-actualization and independence, I have to let you know, there is going to be some people who start to see you as self-centered or insensitive because they kind of internally resent the drive and the confidence and the courage that you exhibit. But that's their problem. And you can't get caught up in that. All right. And the truth is, when you're a 1, self-centeredness is going to be inevitable because you came into this life to learn about you. You got to remember that. And you got to learn to appreciate who you are naturally and genuinely. All right. That's big with this. All right. And you also have to accept that not everybody is going to appreciate who you are naturally and genuinely. And they don't have to. That's their problem. That's on them. And if you want the world to be a better place, it just starts with you being a better person. Everything starts with you. You understand me? And look, that self-centeredness and that self-awareness, it's going to help. Because actually, that's what leads towards that development that you need with this right here. All right. Because self-centeredness becomes self-awareness, and then self-awareness becomes self-acceptance. And then you'll be impervious to the bullshit that people try to project onto you. And then consequently, people will start to admire you, and then they'll want to follow you. All right. See, this isn't about power or influence like the 8. It's not like that. It's about courage and leadership. See, the 1s are willing to go it alone. They'll do it by their motherfucking self. All right. And they're learning to be action oriented, and they're learning how to be assertive and sometimes confrontational if needs be. But that doesn't mean they're picking fights. It just means they're attacking life head on, and they're realizing courage isn't the absence of fear. No, it's the willingness to keep going in spite of it. Nothing stops me. You're an unstoppable force. You hear me? And the 1 is going to give a person an abundance of energy and charisma and ego, and it's going to prompt them to kind of be courageous in a certain way. They got to really do it. They can't just talk about it. They got to be about it. And the thing is, they don't need approval. They need results. Keep that in mind. But I can also let you know, on the other end of this spectrum, all of that energy can also make them combative and irritable and impatient. So all they got to do is be more aware of that themselves. And then they can harness it or just tone it down, because sometimes as ones, they just be doing too much, or they just be going too fast for people to keep up with them. And then in turn, slowing down makes them irritable, and it makes them insensitive. And that's why there's also this tendency for them to just want to do everything alone as a one. But when you do everything alone, you also kind of lose touch with the outside world, and you can become brash and savage and tactless. And that's a problem in and of itself too, with a one. All right. Besides, when you do everything by yourself, there is also that inevitable loneliness that kicks in. All right. So I would definitely say there is an appropriate balance that needs to be reached here, but it's going to take a certain amount of self-awareness to know how much is appropriate for each of y'all individually. And it's not going to be the same amount for everybody. That's why you have to look at yourself individually. All right. This is where you do have to separate yourself from the collective and look at your unique traits and what makes you, you. But you also have to remember, independence does not always need to equate to isolation. That's big right there. You just have to learn how to interact without creating any form of dependence or anything like that. Whether it be them to you or you to them. All right? Because both are a possibility. Because you're going to realize at some point, you are your own entity. But sometimes I can also see in certain ones, they can really become attached to things or people, or even addicted to things or people, or obsessed with things and people to the point that it actually challenges their personal freedom. They become a slave to that. And they could also be so enamored in somebody else that that relationship to that person challenges their unique identity. And when that happens, that's when the universe is going to actually prompt them to separate themselves from that. Because when you're a life path one, your dependencies are going to be what's standing between you and the creation of a purposeful and fulfilling life. All right? Remember that. Look, as I was saying a few minutes ago, my mom was the number one life path. And her struggles with addictions to food and substances and tobacco, coupled with that struggle that she had with codependency, was really a major theme in her life. All right. But let me also tell y'all, her defeating those made people all over the world admire her. And when my mom died, over 1,000 people showed up to her funeral. And we had to have 2 separate services to accommodate everybody. All right. She had that many admirers, that many people that loved her because she was an individual. She was so unique. And that light just emanated off of her. And it's not because she was powerful or charming, like with the 8 or the 2. No, it's because she was real. That's the one. And when it boils down to it, ones are just different. They're just different. You're learning about your own uniqueness. You're realizing that you have everything that you need inside of yourself. You hear me? And don't get it twisted. There are a lot of gifts that come along with this. All right. Because I'm letting you know now, ones are actually some of the most intuitive people in the whole world. They pick up on things very quickly because they have to. And it's also because they were meant to be first. And they can be fighters when everybody else is scared because they don't let fear stop them. And you know that's definitely admirable. Yeah. The ego is strong with these ones right here, man. But it's not in control. And that's beautiful. It's just like part of the whole thing with them right here. And their self-awareness is going to help them recognize that that ego cannot consume them. And so there's people that can hold themselves accountable because that's self-awareness. So that's also beautiful with that. And let me also say, with the 1, their ability to focus is something to behold too, man. For real. But I can also say the gifts of the 1 are not universal. There's going to be unique gifts that come to each one of these people right here. And that's why this life path is about figuring out the unique things that are made for you and only you. All right? What makes you unique? And so if you're a 1, just be yourself, just stay genuine, take initiative, be action oriented in your approach to life, and put you first. Because it starts with you. And as I just said, the world being a better place starts with you being a better person. All right? And if you're a 55 1, there is a certain master implication to that right there. All right? Because that means you do have a specific journey that you're on with this right here, to where your influence means something to the world, not just to you, but to the world. All right? And you just have to learn how to look at life realistically without limiting yourself. And you have to learn the difference between self-acceptance and selfishness. And you have to remember, just because you're built like that, it doesn't mean you have to build like that. And what I mean is, we all have all of this energy available to us in some way, form, or fashion. What you do with it is what you do with it. And even beyond that, it's not about what you do. It's about how you do it. And that's some priceless knowledge in itself. And this has been some priceless knowledge of self. If any of y'all are interested in a numerology reading, don't get at me in these comments. Get at me in my email, which is mr.turner1300@gmail.com. That's mr.turner1300@gmail.com. And I actually have a whole host of services with astrology and numerology. You just have to get at me. All right. And once you send me an email, I'll send you a price list and a list of services, and we'll go from there. Thank you all for tuning in. I love you. Keep it real till next time.